What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Run Your Mouth podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo. If you've never been to YoKratom.com, shopped around, looked at all the incredible kratom flavors, you haven't lived in life. So go there, look at the white men daz, the red men daz, the train wreck, pick yourself a big old kilo of kratom, and then post a self-picture online. Go look, I'm a supporter of the sponsors that support the independent journalism that I love, because independent journalism, it's going away. You think this stuff's going to be here forever? I mean, even Tucker Carlson got fired from his job, but I'm here with breaking news, information that you can't hear, won't hear anybody else, but Tucker Carlson is actually a gay lover of none other than Don Lemon, and the two of them planned their retirement together so that they could get onto a boat, sail the world. And, you know, I don't have to get too expressive or explicit on how these people are going to spend their gay retirement together. But that's the story that you haven't heard. Those two, they've been a power butt-fucking couple this entire time. Running the media from both sides, playing up against each other. And then on the same day, one got fired. They both got fired from their jobs on exactly the same day so that they could sail into retirement together. Pretty good run. You know, you both get onto your collective news channels, spur up a whole bunch of bullshit, print those paychecks, and then eventually you get on your yacht together and go, hey, we had a pretty good run of lying to all sorts of people for a full 10 years. Let's get into the Tucker Carlson thing, because, you know, if you can learn one thing from Tucker Carlson, it's you never want to be too good at your job. Talk about being number one in the ratings. 3.5 million watchers every single evening. And not just that, but being in writing right to his bosses, where he goes, hey, listen, you guys keep talking about this Dominion stuff. You might lose our credibility. Then they lose the court case because they were doing stuff that wasn't very good for their credibility. And then Tucker Carlson, he gets canned. So I'll sum up all the theories on why Tucker Carlson got canned. I mean, I already gave you the real reason. It's because he's always been in love with Don Lemon, and they coordinated these two things. They made enough money, and now they get to go sail into retirement. No one else is going to break down that story for you, but it's quite clear. I can read through the lines. I can see through the tea leaves. I can listen to the equal exchanges of propaganda that both people put forward in front of us on a daily basis and realize those are two people playing the same game, living on yachts together, getting ready for retirement. I can tell these things. And yes, Brian Stelter is their gimp. But sometimes they let him lounge and be fat and eat cupcakes and like grapes in a chair. But for most of the time, he's gimping for them on this love boat. All right. But anyways, I know you guys come here for the hard-hitting facts that you can't get anywhere else. You want summaries that no one else can deliver to you in a speed like this unless you're listening to a podcast on 3, 4, 5x speed. So here we go. I'll give you guys the breakdown. Number one, maybe the big-time advertisers called him up. I'm talking about the people that fund CNN on a daily basis, even though CNN's not getting no profits. But we're talking about the real big league advertisers. We're talking about the Boeings, the Lockheed Martins, the Pfizers, your pharmaceutical companies, your military industrial complex people. And they said, hey, listen, you put something else out on primetime, and here's the paycheck. Here's the commitment that we will make to Fox News for next year, for the election cycle, if Tucker Carlson's not there. They put a number on a piece of paper, and they said, here is the check, the commitment we will make if you put someone else into primetime. And they had to make a business decision there, which was, this guy might have the best ratings, he might be putting on the best news show, but at the end of the day, we want that money. And we saw how long CNN could continue to survive while saying total bullshit and have zero ratings because people will just pay to make it seem like that's the only opinion that anyone ever has and that that's mainstream news and anything outside of it's propaganda. But we would really like that paycheck. So they canned him for a paycheck. That's number one. Number two, his comments ruined the lawsuit. They got that Dominion lawsuit. They wanted to go fight it. But then when you've got your own staff sending emails going, hey, this is reckless, the way that you guys are reporting on it, the lawyers looked at those and went, well, when we even have the highest rated person on our network disparaging our own coverage, this is going to be very hard for us to defend in court. And then Rupert Murdoch got so angry, he said, you know what, that's it, let's can the guy. Or it was recent statements that he made And by the way, I never watched Tucker Carlson. If anything, I feel like I kind of missed out on the Tucker Carlson thing, because I see some of the most recent clips, and you're like, this guy was spitting some truth. You guys can go find it online. He gave a speech to the Heritage Foundation, and there was like a 5-minute chunk in the middle where he really spoke out against what the trans movement is specifically pushing onto kids and the demonic powers behind it. And then he also did a recent segment on the show where he was highly critical over the way the other networks have a relationship with Pfizer, and were preaching to everybody the importance of taking medications with little evidence. Let's see, you didn't even put it in such kind terms. I'm afraid of getting censored from YouTube if I even repeat what Tucker Carlson said on Fox News. He had an excellent example where he's like, imagine if my pillow potentially had health effects, and this is the way that we covered it the entire time. So it could be that Tucker Carlson just went too dangerous. He was speaking too much power, too much truth, criticizing the Ukraine war, all the things that the biggest powers in the world are pushing upon us for profits. And Fox News finally realized, hey, we can't have this guy in our airwaves anymore. So those are all the possibilities. But of course, Tucker Carlson gets fired, and we already have Jews out there going, he was mean. I tried working here, and he was mean. He made me do things that he gave me a paycheck for, but I wasn't comfortable with after the fact. And even though I didn't quit the job, I'm now here complaining about what it did to my soul. Tucker Carlson was mean. So guys, if you want to learn anything, it's one, don't be too good at your job. And if you get to the point where you're so good at the job that you can't be fired, you're not allowed to be mean to people. Don't use the C word. No one likes it if you use the C word. Tucker Carlson's got a different brand than, for example, who's that lesbian lady who's on daytime TV, who is also in the Finding Nemo movie? People in the chat, help me out. You guys can come up with the name. Her whole thing is, hey, look at me. I'm such a friendly old lady. Not old lady. I'm such a friendly lady. And so when all of a sudden you realize behind the scene, that ain't no friendly lady, I guess, yeah, it does kind of ruin the image, because the whole thing is that they're on TV playing a friendly lady. Does Tucker Carlson come off like a nice fellow? Would you think anything other than Tucker Carlson might be a harsh character behind the scenes? I mean, at what point do you earn the right to be an asshole? Isn't that the dream, where you're so good at your job that you get to kind of be a prick to people? I mean, are we at all surprised that Tucker Carlson might call people a cunt behind the scene? Is that surprising? I don't know. It doesn't seem to me like that would be a deal breaker. But of course, they're going to have to come up with, he wasn't nice to people. Even though he was making our corporation a lot of money, he had the highest rated news show, and he was putting out information that nobody else would on mainstream television. At the end of the day, he just wasn't that nice enough to his support staff. And here at Fox News, what we care about is fostering an environment where even the subordinate employees feel like they're a part of something that nobody watches, and is mostly the propaganda orders that the elites tell us to put on TV. But as long as you're not allowed to be mean and do that, it's the combination. You got to both be nice and be in the established lanes of propaganda. And I feel bad for conservatives, because I don't know where they're going to find the laugh of an Asian lady now. They're going to have to go back to watching porn. If they need someone with the face of disgust, and the laugh. Don't worry, you can come here. I'll work on my Tucker Carlson, Asian lady and look of disgust faced. So, all right. Anyways, that's it. We can call it an episode. Who else can summarize everything on an issue as quickly as the Run Your Mouth program? Nobody. That's why go buy yourself some Yokratums, home of the $60 kilo. Get out there, support the show. All right. I don't know. Did you guys watch Ray Epps over on 60 Minutes? Did you give that a watch at all? If you didn't, I'm going to play a little bit and give you some commentary. Here we go. Ray Epps,
to be
60
upfront,
Minutes.
to help keep the peace. What happened next at Peace Circle, where protesters first overran police, is seen as a smoking gun. Epps pulled this agitated rioter aside and said something. Conspiracists say he was giving marching orders because seconds later, this happened. The first Capitol police officer goes down.
They basically went with the pedophile argument. They went, go back and watch whatever that show was, To Catch a Predator. That's the argument they went with. At some point later on, he goes, I was just making sure I was on the front lines to make sure that I could keep the peace and nobody did anything too crazy. I was just bringing these sugar cookies to this 12-year-old to make sure that they don't get together with other people for sugar cookies. You know, if this 12-year-old is on the internet talking to me about how much they love sugar cookies and hanging out with adult men that aren't their parents, I know that there are other creeps out there. So I drove this 3 hours, and I brought this sugar cookies and this lemonade and this little pink panda that I picked up at a gas station to teach them that if other people are coming over here with all this stuff, that might be a bad situation for this 12-year-old. All right, first thing I want to say is, actually, you know what? Let's watch this one next clip.
To be upfront.
Let's watch this next clip first, and I'll give the commentary.
Seen committing an act of violence that day or entering the Capitol. Epps told us when he saw the violence, his fervor to enter the building became a desire to play peacemaker.
Hey guys, they're not the enemy. They're not the enemy. Appreciate you guys.
And police body cam video.
All right. I'm getting a little sick of getting half footage. We need all the footage. I don't like these little clips coming out after the fact. I don't know. Is Ray Epps a Fed? The most suspicious thing is the fact that they're throwing everyone into jail cells. They're calling them domestic terrorists. They're saying that anyone that got out there to protest who was conned by Donald Trump, thought that the election was a scam and needed to show up there. A lot of people got into a lot of trouble. They've been disparaged, and they've gone so far as to say that the incident is proof of the fact that we need a domestic terrorism title. And so everything that happened in Gitmo and stripping people of their rights, of shoving tubes up their ass to pretend like it was because they were hungry and that was the only way to get them nutrition. I mean, all the terrible things that we did to non-American citizens on the basis of a fighting terrorism clause they're trying to bring to America because of the incidents that happened on the insurrection of January 6th. But this one guy, let's stop ruining his life. This one guy who is out there yelling, let's get into the Capitol. Come on. I mean, that's all the other people should be in jail. And yes, we should have a domestic terrorism title so that random people who might be saying things that are true on the internet, we can say might incite violence and then bring them offshore to, terrorist black sites and keep them there without trials or evidence for long periods of time. But this Ray Epps guy, he just got mixed up. And then now all of a sudden, conveniently, we're seeing footage that we've never seen where he's actually standing up there and he's going, hey, step back, or hey, we're here with the cops. And what I'm watching, and granted, maybe this is just my wacky conspiracy bearing, is a good agent with the perfect amount of deniability. A guy who is smart enough to not actually engage in any violence, see that there were cameras there, walk all the way up to the front line and go, hey, get this on camera. And then when they went into the building, smart enough to just walk away. But, who knows? Who knows? Maybe this guy really is just some tall dumbass. Maybe we live in a world where if you're attractive or tall, you just stand out. And so you had that shaman who, hat off, doesn't look that great, but with the hat on, Brad Pitt, handsome-looking fellow, dressed up in a costume. And so you know what we do? We just decide, hey, this is the handsome guy. He must be in charge. And even though there's all sorts of people yelling all sorts of things the entire day, it's the same as the people who go on Instagram. The most attractive ones become the most popular. See the pictures of this shaman guy. And, all of a sudden, it's like he was the face of the entire movement for no reason other than that he was a little bit better looking. And maybe it's the same thing with this fellow. He's just tall. You're just tall. That's just about all. And so he's out there, he stands a little bit above the crowd, and so there's just more footage of him than other people, and there's just a convenient storyline of him, he just wants to observe and make sure that no one else gets too violent, which is why he's on the front lines, whispering into somebody guy's ear. He's coming off of the FBI watch list because he called them up. He said, hey, let's just have a meeting. I can explain what happened here. And then conveniently didn't actually engage in any of the violence and is on camera going, hey, step back. After he rallied, everyone's get up there. Hey, everybody step back. I don't know. The most suspicious part is just the fact that the machine, as in New York Times and 60 Minutes, seems to be defending him. When Thomas Massey was up there and he said, hey, what's the deal? They wouldn't answer any questions. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm not buying it. And maybe this is just how loony my brain is, but I watch this, and one, let's get all the footage out. I like the fact that you're just like, I get to see random images down the line I mean, the fact that the fucking shaman is out of jail because of the select videos that was played on Tucker Carlson's show, those prosecutors aren't in trouble for not sharing that evidence, and the rest of the videos haven't just been made widely available so that we can stop just seeing select clips. Like, I mean, if this was a violent insurrection and you're the FBI or you're whoever wants the domestic terrorism title, wouldn't you want all the footage out there so that we could see with our own eyes just how violent the situation was? And you don't have to hide the 9/11 footage. We clearly saw a building collapse. Why is it that we just have to get select imagery, and that when one person finally shows more images of what happens, someone gets let out of jail, and then of course we can't see any other ones? Or in this one, I never saw footage of him prior telling people up there that they have to step back. I don't know. Do you guys add that audio after the fact? All right, let's take some comments, move on to the next topic. Bill O'Reilly used to beat his wife and coworkers. He was a customer I used to work, found out through his neighbors. Bill O'Reilly used to beat his wife, and is Bill O'Reilly even a big guy that he could beat up coworkers? Not endorsing that, by the way, just in case that wasn't clear. The Ray Epps interview is a propaganda piece made to mock people, we did this and we're getting away with this and now we're rubbing it in your face type vibe. And then lastly, some quack. I used to work at coffee shops and customers would always ask the tallest dude on shift if he was the manager. Yeah, there is something about that. All right, moving on.
Committing an act.
Let's quickly plug our other sponsor, YoDelta.com, where, maybe you haven't taken the Kratom plunge yet, but you're getting high all the time, so why not go to YoDelta.com? You get yourself a big bag of gummies, you shove it up in the freezer, and you'll have all the getting high supplies you need for the foreseeable future. You can take little nibbles, have a nice seasoned burn, or take a full 25 milligram and, hopefully not have a job that is that important. Don't take edibles and operate heavy machinery or whatever other legal clause you should probably say for responsible adults over the age of 21. You got an evening, you want to get out there, you want to be incredibly stoned, I recommend you go to YoDelta.com, use promo code RYM, you get 20% off. Get yourself some high quality Delta products. Support the sponsor that supports us. All right, moving on. Also, quick announcements. Tonight, Cafe Bohemia, if you're in New York City, 8 p.m., I've got an incredible lineup. Working on some new jokes. It's always a good time. Got a great spot. You just show up. Or you can go online and get tickets. Promo code FIRE, $5 off. I also got a show at the Jameson Club. It's in Watertown, Connecticut. Connecticut. It's an hour from me in Stamford. My friend Alex Tomaselli has a good show in Connecticut, and then in Chicago this weekend. And then, of course, Summer Porch Tour dates being confirmed soon. All right, let's move on to our next topic, which is they're actually moving forward with a lawsuit against Donald Trump. So this is fun. Tucker Carlson got fired because apparently he was mean off air. And, he said not nice things to the executives who were pushing the Dominion and I guess probably other nonsense at Fox News. And now, when we get into the next campaign schedule, potentially Biden gets to go, listen, I can't even debate this Donald Trump guy. I mean, there's 14 court cases going on in New York City. That guy is an accused rapist. You expect me to share the floor with a man who's an accused rapist? So they actually got the lawsuit going forward. Carol, whatever her last name is. And what's exciting about this rape case is that we might be able to find out what kind of rape this lady's into. I mean, I'm not into any of it. I want to make it very clear. If you're out there, you're a dude who's bigger than me, I'm walking the streets, I'm not into any, there's no rape that I'm into. So please don't grab me and rape me. Don't rape other women. I'm not endorsing it. I don't even think there's a large community of rape enthusiasts, but there is one. There's one lady who is on the news, came out to the broader public as a rape enthusiast, said she thinks it's sexy, she enjoys it, and so hopefully we can get some clarification on what kind of rape that she actually does enjoy and why it is specifically the rape that she endured by Donald Trump while she was trying on clothes at a Burberry in front of him in one of the changing rooms was not the right kind of. You see what I'm getting at here? How are you going to move forward with this lawsuit? Once you were already on the news and you came out on live TV as a rape enthusiast, isn't it hard to bring a credible case? I mean, you're either like not sane enough to, I don't know, I guess give even testimony about something that may or may, oh, maybe that's what happened. Maybe she was an absolutely normal person, and what they're going to bring forward is that because of the incidents and trauma of that day, she's no longer a sane individual. Maybe I'm victim shaming here. You know what? I apologize. Hopefully we get some clarification in court. Moving on. What else we got here? Will Biden have to compete for the Democratic nomination? This is from the AP. Self-help author Marianne Williamson and anti-vaccine activist Robert F. Kennedy Jr. are the only Democrats to challenge the president. Neither of them presents the type of primary opposition that wounded previous incumbents such as Senator Kennedy's campaign against President Jimmy Carter in 1980 or Pat Buchanan's run against President George H.W. Bush in 1992. The DNC is fully committed to Biden this year, that it is not planning to schedule a primary debate, sparing the president from sharing a stage with Williamson, Kennedy, or any other political challenger. I don't know about previous elections because I don't remember, I guess, sitting presidents having to do debates within their own party. Like for example, in the last election, I don't think Trump had to debate anyone. I don't remember if, I'm putting it forward. I don't remember, maybe I could have Googled this. I don't remember if Obama in his second term had to debate anybody. I did, however, see a post on Twitter that Kennedy had done a podcast, didn't speak about vaccines at all, and the channel still got a strike just for having him on. So you can be sure that the machine is going to do everything it can to not allow for any exposure for Kennedy. I don't know that Biden's refusal to debate him necessarily, like, obviously it would be awesome if that debate were to take place, and then we could see who sounds older to us. We can actually sit there and watch and go, am I listening to the same person? Because that guy's got the crickets in his throat, this guy's falling asleep. It'd be the first time you watched a debate and just sat there like, huh? So maybe it would be bad just to bury the Democratic Party where you could see how low debate ratings are if Donald Trump's not even on the debate stage. And even Democrats have to contend with the fact of, hey, are you staying up for this? Anyone know what they're talking about? Anyone following this? But obviously, as much exposure for Kennedy as possible would be nice. Not even saying I'd support him. Not even saying, I actually think his book was so incredibly scandalous in its coverage. And what I mean by scandalous is, like, I spoke about that the vaccine didn't have utility and might be dangerous. That book was like, hey, Fauci has a long history of a total disregard for human life. Here's the other instances of him clearly being okay with running experiments on other human beings and doing things that were not in their health interests. And then, like, I just remember being like, I don't know if you could possibly validate any of this, but cool that he's going for it, and almost odd that there isn't like a defamation suit against him, which if anything would have made the book appear to be more right. And that there are some wild claims in that. The claims are not even like, if that's true, like some of the language you would normally use to kind of allow yourself to not be liable for defamation. Like everything in that book is kind of written as an absolute. But as a person who clearly criticized the mandates, the way that government handled COVID, all of the tyranny that it brought into our lives, any amount of that story that could actually be forced into the mainstream narrative, especially for liberals to have to, contend with, would be a win. And so any exposure for Kennedy as he speaks out against what happened specifically with the COVID regime, and I believe I'm just going to assume he's anti the Ukraine war, but I don't actually know on that, would obviously be a plus. All right. And now we have the dismantling of D-Dog, who luckily him and Tucker Carlson do get to sail into the sunset together. But we saw D-Dog unravel. At the beginning of the segment, I actually thought D-Dog was doing a pretty good job. And I thought Vivek Ramaswamy wasn't coming off all that great. For those unfamiliar with Vivek Ramaswamy, he wrote a really great book. It's called Woke Inc. When I first was delving into the ESG score stuff, which I covered on last year's Run Your Mouth end of year misinformation spectacular, when I first came across it, and it did not have as much reporting on it as it did at the time, I came across his book Woke Inc., which was on that exact topic, decided to give it a read. Smart feller, really on point with a bunch of topics, has some really dumb conservative horseshit on others. Like, he thinks if we want to make America a more wholesome place, what we need is a forced year of service for our country between high school and college. So he's got some dumb conservative horseshit thoughts, but then he's also got some really good thoughts, particularly when it comes to woke nonsense, identitarian politics, and ESG scores, which are essentially just another way of corporations, pushing bullshit upon us, so that instead of creating value in the marketplace, goods and products that compete, they can just police our behaviors and force us to buy goods that aren't as good. All right, but anyways, dude. So the first half of this, whatever. I don't think Vivek's coming off that great, but if you're watching a game of chess, in the last few minutes here, he dismantles D-Dog. He dismantles him. He makes D-Dog commit himself so hard to a position of, listen, this is my color, and that's your color. And since that's your color, you're not allowed to comment on anything that has to do with my color. And yes, we are currently still the worst class of victims, and there's no reason to have a conversation about facts or reason here, because since I have this color, I'm allowed to make a statement and you're not possibly allowed to argue on it. So on the one side, you got one person going, well, can't we just have like rational conversations around information? And then you get another guy who's actually saying, well, no, only people of a certain color are allowed to comment on these things, and I am of a higher authority, so take your facts and reasons and please leave CNN. We'll watch it. It's a beautiful dismantling. This might be, very rarely do you see, someone just be kryptonite to people who are playing like the identity politics game and hey, we're victims because I said that we're victims and you're not allowed to say anything about it. And he lost his job. Does CNN not support black anchors? Is that CNN's new stance? Is CNN trying to say that there's no longer racial injustice in this country? That they would just throw D-Dog under the bus because, all right, let's give it a watch.
Before I move on to China.
I don't see what one has to do with the other, but go on. I took up a lot of time with Fox.
Oh, it's fine. We have time.
I don't really see what one has to do with the other, especially consider and using the Civil War to talk about black Americans. That war was not fought for black people to have guns. That's not.
That war was fought for black people to have freedoms in this country. Yeah. Actually, that's why the Civil War was fought.
Okay.
And the sad
but that
part
wasn't
about
fought for black people to have guns. I think.
Actually, you know, a funny fact is black people did not get to enjoy the other freedoms until their Second Amendment rights were secured. And I think that's one of the lessons that we learned.
Aren't allowed to enjoy the freedoms.
I disagree with you on that, Don. I disagree with you. I think you're doing a disservice to our country by failing to recognize the fact that we have equality before the law.
When you are in black skin and you live in this country, then you can disagree with me, but we're not. You mentioned in here that we have three different shades
Don, I think we have to be able to
here.
talk about these issues in the open regardless of the color of our skin. Black Americans today, to say that, compare that to 1865 and 1964,
I think for you to compare it to
absolutely
1865 and
have equal rights
1964
in this
is
country.
actually, I think it's insulting to black people. It's insulting to me as an African American. I don't want to sit here and argue with you because it's infuriating for you to put those things together. It's not right. Your telling of history is wrong. What
part of the history was wrong?
What part of the history was wrong? That the Civil War was fought. You're making people think that the Civil War was fought for black people, only for black people to get guns and for black people to have.
The Civil War was fought for black people in this country to get freedoms, a noble mission. And I think that even after we succeeded, we had to actually secure those freedoms.
To reduce it in a speech at the NRA to say you're making people think, or you're trying to say that black people to get guns, that was the reason that you're there at the NRA. That was the reason for the Civil War.
It is a fact.
That's reductive.
It's not
and
reductive,
I think it's
Don.
insulting. There are a whole plethora of reasons that for the Civil War.
With due respect, I find your explanation reductive and actually insulting, including to black Americans, to say that black people today, compared to 1964, 1865, haven't made progress in part because of the freedoms we secured. And the Second Amendment was part of what secured that freedom.
I cannot keep a thought if you guys are talking to me in my ear. So hang on one second. So to say that black people.
That's the first great moment where, the higher-ups were pressing that button of, hey, D-Dog, you're out of your league. Hey, D-Dog, you're actually not that smart, and this guy's about to beat you, so maybe just give this one up because you're not going to win. And that's pretty great that, Vivek comments to him the fact that you're saying that you guys, you're just playing this victim card and, hey, no one else is allowed to comment on what you've declared as victimhood because they're not your color is ridiculous because we should all be able to have conversations about facts and reason. And D-Dog goes, nope, that's not the way it's supposed to work. I'm supposed to declare I'm a victim and I'm this color, and therefore I get to take offense, and everyone else is supposed to cower. All right, let's continue.
Say what you said again.
Black people secured their freedoms after the Civil War. It is a historical fact, Don. Just study it. Only after their Second Amendment rights were secured.
They were not secured their freedoms after the Civil War. That is not. You are discounting Reconstruction. You're discounting a whole host of things that happened after the Civil War when it comes to African Americans, including the whole reason that the Civil Rights Movement happened is because black people did not secure their freedoms after the Civil War, and that things turned around. People tried to change the freedoms that were supposed to happen.
And you know how they got it?
They
got their Second Amendment rights, and they actually got the NRA played a big role in that. But today, Don, the NRA
did not play a big role in that.
Absolutely, they trained black Americans how to use firearms.
That's a lie. That's not. The NRA did not play a big role in that.
This is just historical fact. But Don, the part that I find
because you say it's historical fact.
The part that I find insulting is when you say today black Americans don't have those rights after we have gone through civil rights revolution in this country.
You are sitting here telling an African American about the rights and what you find insulting about the way I live, the skin I live in every day.
Here's where you and I have
the
a different point of view.
Black and white that black people don't have in this country.
Wasn't that like a fun little Spaceballs moment? The fact that you're commenting on what I'm allowed to comment on as the person who's supposed to be in the preferred class and the only one who's allowed to do this. Well, anyways, we give you a send-off, D-Dog. You had a pretty good run, and now you get to live on a boat with Tucker Carlson. So, there's worse things that you can do in your retirement. All right, we got even more
Before I move on to China.
I don't see
what else do I got here? Oh, this was Kamala recently giving a speech letting us know if you're going to be out there and you've got important decisions to make in your life, this is the way that you need to think about this. And before I give it a play, what I'm really hoping is that maybe once Kamala leaves office, she'll write us a guide for making decisions, because she has an odd thought process in coming to conclusions. Like, it seems like there's variables that I'm not even aware of when I'm doing research or I'm trying to evaluate a life or business decision. She seems to be coming at it from like a very different perspective, with some specifics about the way time works that you have to keep in mind. And so I'm just hoping, because she's such a visionary and creative thinker running with a thought process that I even can't comprehend, that maybe down the line we'll get the Kamala Harris guide for decision making, where she can really outline, her thought process of the different variables that she'll take into consideration before making a decision. All right, so let's give this one a watch.
So I think it's very important, as you have heard from so many incredible leaders, for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present, and to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in the history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past but the future.
There you go. I'm not even sure I understand what she's talking about. So hopefully, once she gets retired from office, and by that, I mean, I guess that Biden can't run, and then they realize that she can't run either. And so she gets her sweetheart book deal, and she gets to go on tour and give speeches where she gets paid a lot of money for people to sit there and go, huh? So hopefully when she gets there, she'll also write within her book the Kamala Harris Guide for making decisions, where maybe she can better explain some of these variables for us common folk who aren't as intelligent, are not as well achieved as becoming the vice president of the United States of America. We don't quite understand the impact of school buses or space. And, hopefully she'll be able to better decipher her thoughts in writing for us so that we can sit here and all make more informed decisions. All right, we got a couple more topics, and then we can call an episode. What do we got next? Come on, producer man. What else we got up on this thing? Oh, we've got Joe Biden did finally announce that he will be getting wheeled. Not even running, just wheeled. Just pushed along, shuffled. He'll do it. He's doing a shuffle step. So here we go. Here is Biden's. They circled the running part. They really wanted to make it known that his energy levels, they're really good. Don't you worry. So here he is. Joe Biden's running for re-election. This is his first campaign ad, making the announcement. He's sticking in the fight. So let's give this one a watch.
Freedom, personal freedom, is fundamental to who we are as Americans.
There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred.
That's been the work of my first term, to fight for our democracy.
This shouldn't be a red or blue issue.
To protect our rights, to make sure that everyone in this country is treated equally and that everyone is given a fair shot at making it. But around the country, MAGA extremists are lining up to take on those bedrock freedoms, cutting Social Security that you paid for your entire life while cutting.
I want to stop there for a second. One, and I put this forward to the hopefully Libertarian Party, is that we have to do a better job of owning the word freedom, because that's not what the other parties want. The other parties get to pretend like that's the value that we bring, and there's cost of freedom. There's cost of freedom, which is that some of the social benefits, which are wealth redistribution and taken by force, will not be a part of our system. These people don't believe in freedom. They believe in, hey, unless we come in and remove your freedoms and restrict your movement, force you to get vaccines, force you to pay into Social Security programs that will not exist in the future. I mean, God bless this guy that his concept of freedom or cutting back is actually just being honest. You're currently robbing me of my wealth for a social good that will not exist in the future. And not only will it not exist in the future, you've been lying for generations of people, telling them that it's been going into an account and that in the future they're going to get their money. And it doesn't exist. That account doesn't exist. We spent it. You literally rob people of the money. You spent the money because that's what you do with all money that you bring in. And then you promise them that you're going to have more free shit if they keep you in power. And so you're active, like in other words, someone could actually step in and be honest in regards to Social Security and go, hey, this thing's bankrupt. We spent all your money. We lied to you. Or previous people lied to you. And at least if we make the following changes, I can make sure that you can continue to have this money. It's like the Ponzi scheme has gone bust, but they're getting up there and going, hey, we can still pretend like it's okay. It's like someone busts the Ponzi scheme for being broken, and then you yell at the guy for busting the Ponzi scheme for being broken and saying, well, you're just trying to make sure that everyone who invested here doesn't get their... No, they're not getting their money. It's like, so you, in other words, you're going to continue to steal from me on the promise of something that won't exist in the future, but you're the good guy here. The point I'm trying to make is that I guess Democrats in particular, they don't believe in freedom. That's actually not what the land that they want us to live in. They want to live in a land of wealth redistribution where they're able to make decisions for us about our health, our movements, and otherwise. They don't believe in freedom. That's not the vision that they want for the country. So it's two things. One is the fact that even they start their campaign ads with, hey, we're here to make sure that the country, like that's what they're looking like, that's what they want to sell people on, because that's what people actually want. So it's on us to really teach people that that's not what they're giving you. They are lying to you when they're pretending like their version of governance is freedom. It's not. It's something else. And then things like this where they're trying to pretend like they're the good guy because they're willing to lie and ignore the problem on things as simple as, can you believe that the Republicans will actually have an honest conversation with you about how government's already robbed you of your Social Security? I mean, how terrible are these Republicans that they're actually willing to be honest? And by the way, the Republicans won't. It's become so toxic to even address the fact that that the government has robbed you of your Social Security money, and it's continued to make us all pay in on something that we're probably not going to receive in the future. Like the actual actuary math is there, that there's going to have to be a reduction, I think, in 2030, and that also we know that that it hasn't been pre-funded. All right, let's continue.
Taxes for the very wealthy, dictating what healthcare decisions women can make, banning books, and telling people who they can love, all while making it more difficult for you to be.
Banning books. Of course, the books that he's referring to is basically porn books for kids, so that if they couldn't figure out how to masturbate or be gay or come out of the closet or how to change their gender. Well, now there's books with images that are, and there's enough porn on the internet and information on the internet. You don't have to make the books available in the school library. I don't know. I'd hardly consider that one banning books. And then also the healthcare freedom. Okay, well then why not get rid of the licensing laws so that I can just buy myself a policy that, if I end up with cancer, like a catastrophic care policy. Where's my freedom of choice in terms of the actual healthcare policy that would make sense for the way that I use healthcare?
Be able to vote. When I ran for president 4 years ago, I said we're in a battle for the soul of America, and we still are. The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead we have more freedom or less freedom, more rights or fewer. I know what I want the answer.
Did you guys feel like through the COVID pandemic, like Biden was here giving us more freedom? Is that it? That's what we really need to hit back on. These people don't believe in freedom. They actively restricted our lifestyles in our lifetime more than, I don't know, when was I guess probably since Vietnam, and they were people were forced to be in the military. Probably since then, we haven't seen government be more forceful and involved in our lifestyles. And yet he still gets to parade around the word freedom as if that's what he represents. All right, moving forward, I think I had one more topic on the docket. I'm going to do a full read-through of this because I had to reschedule a guest. I thought we were going to have a guest at the end of this episode, rescheduled for a latter one. So I will tease this topic and we'll be on a later episode. But Fauci was in the New York Times and seemingly backtracking quite a bit. First going, hey, listen, I was just here making $900,000 to repeat the guidance from the CDC. But these weren't my decisions, and I was just making the health decisions so then other people could then make their decisions. Sorry, I need to take a breath. Firstly, you can go read it. We're going to do a full review later on. But the whole point of firstly is leaving things to the market is because single individuals can't make great decisions for everybody. And then also, if you're going to recognize that you can't account for things like the economics, shutting down the country, missed education, if there's costs that you actually can't evaluate. Like if we can understand that there's a cost benefit to every single situation, and you're only coming in as an advisor from a single outlook, well, then you got to represent that. This is why I've been yelling about the Clear Authority Act, is because you shouldn't be able to get people who change our entire lives and then just afterward, I never did that. I never said that. I was only making a health recommendation. If you had a economic concern about your business going under and that you would starve to death, I was only making the health recommendation. Well, then just give us the information and let us make the decision. Don't both insert yourself as everyone has to listen to you as the Lord and God of science, and then after the fact go, well, you should have made, other people should have made, I was just from this perspective. Well, that's not what you said. You didn't say, hey, listen, here's the health concerns, but I can't make a decision for everybody because there might also be economic concerns. That's not what you said. That's not what you did. So one, I'm going to yell about this till the day I die, that there needs to be the Under Clear Authority Act, because people can't just go, I was just making you're either making a suggestion or you're telling me something by force. Or like people got to be a lot more clear with their intentions, so you can't just pull this bullshit and walk everything back after the fact. You weren't just making an advisement. It was just from the health perspective. So you're admitting now that you forcibly did not reflect about the possible costs of your policy and then overplayed your hand. I mean, you're still guilty. You're still guilty of that. You told everybody, hey, ignore the other concerns, but then you didn't even listen on what those other risks might be. And then also, why were we spending $900,000 a year with you if all you were doing was relaying the guidance of the CDC? If you had nothing to do with it and you weren't reviewing it, you weren't making a suggestion, you were just relaying their policy, then why did you even exist? Fine, then refund your paycheck. I guess you're telling us that you had a $900,000 job for nothing. Really came a long way from, hey, I'm the Lord and God of science to, I was just repeating what those people, you should talk to those people that said it, and then the other people that enforced it, because really I'm just a nobody. I ain't a nothing over here. All right. And then here was the other one. He even said with like the school close. I never closed. Do you see me close a school? Did you see me show up to a building, personally tell the kids they couldn't go to school? I was just making health recommendations. Everybody else did everything. And yeah, and then at one point at the beginning of this, he goes, yeah, we clearly did things wrong because we're the wealthiest. And it's actually kind of funny. I didn't think about this right now. We're the wealthiest, and we didn't have better results than other countries. So well, that's exactly the point, because we were the wealthiest. Our government had the most power to actually enforce your nonsense. Other countries didn't have as much wealth and power to send people checks and just stay in their homes. So we actually had more resources to just follow the guidance of a single individual who was wrong. That's the difference right there. When you look at it and go, oh, I don't understand how the wealth was if we had the wealth, we should have done better. No, because we're using the wealth wrong. We used the wealth to support the decision of one individual who was you, or fine, I guess the policymakers, you and Rochelle Walensky, but essentially you, as opposed to going, hey, we're not sure, we're going to let other people make their decisions. It was actually a function of our wealth that we did worse because we spent it on listening to you. All right, there you go. That's our episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Back next week. Dual guests. Got some good guests lined up next week, particularly with some more information on what's going on with the switch over away from gas to renewables, how that's going to affect your ability to heat your home and have money from your family. And some report store coming soon in Chicago this weekend with Davey Smith, Connecticut this Thursday night. If you're looking for the Connecticut link, it might not be on my website. Just DM me. DM me, Twitter, Instagram, send me an email, robsnewsroom@gmail.com if you're interested in coming to this Connecticut show. I will get you the info on that. And then, of course, tonight at Cafe Bohemia. Always a good time. I got a killer lineup tonight. It's the regulars, which is me, Howie Dewey, JJ Lieberman. I've got Andy hosting, Nate Marshall doing a spot, and Colin Terrell doing a spot as well. Going to be a great show. So if you're in New York City, come hang out. trying to build up a scene for Wednesday nights at Cafe Bohemia. That's the show. Have a great day, everybody.